There are still 4 teams alive battling it out for the title, but for the rest of the league, the off-season has started, which means it's time to begin planning out how to come back next season even stronger. The NBA draft lottery just went down, thus solidifying the order that the teams at the top will be picking in, and while this year's draft class is loaded with talent, not every team will be inclined to keep their pick, which brings us to today's video. Media outlet Bleacher Report just published an article proposing 4 blockbuster trade ideas featuring some of these lottery picks being on the move in return for established star talent, and as always, I'll be going through each proposal, analyzing whether or not these trades are realistic, who benefits the most from them, and why or why not each team would want to do it. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first proposal from the article is between the Orlando Magic and the Chicago Bulls, where the Magic receive Zach Levine in exchange for Gary Harris, Jonathan Isaac, Jalen Suggs, and the 11th pick in the draft this year. This is a swap between 2 teams trending in opposite directions. The Bulls are looking like a team that already peaked in the realm of mediocrity and are prime candidates to be big-time sellers this offseason, and the Magic are a young team on the rise who took a big step forward last year. Zach Levine is the exact type of talent that the Magic needs to start competing for a playoff berth, because their young core is already a good balance of defensive talent and playmaking talent, and while Paolo Banchero very well could end up being a legitimate #1 scoring option, it's never a bad thing to bring in an all-star scorer to bolster things even more. In that regard, I like the fit between Levine and the Magic. The issue is that I don't think this offer is anywhere near enough to land someone of Zach Levine's caliber. Jonathan Isaac has literally not contributed anything in 3 years, Jalen Suggs didn't show nearly as much progress in his second season to be able to justify labeling him as a valuable young player, and Gary Harris can still give you good minutes on the wing off the bench as a shooter, but he's not good enough to be the headliner of a trade package for a star. If the Magic want Levine, they're either going to have to include way more draft capital than just 1 first-round pick, or they're going to have to cough up one of their best young players, because Levine is still under contract until 2026, and if he becomes available on the trade market, other suitors will come in with better offers than this. The next proposal from the article is between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Toronto Raptors, and in it the Blazers receive Pascal Siakam in exchange for Anthony Simons, Nasir Little, Keon Johnson, and the 3rd pick in the draft this year. The Trailblazers being blessed by the lottery gods and moving up to the 3rd pick this year could prove to be a blessing, as they now have several good options to choose from. Scoot Henderson is a game-changing prospect in my opinion, and the crazy thing is that the Hornets at pick number 2 might pass on him, allowing him to fall into the Blazers' laps. This possibility is going to make the 3rd pick even more valuable, because teams are going to want to trade up for Scoot Henderson if that becomes reality. Damian Lillard is also sticking to his guns about insisting on staying in Portland to build a winner there, and said that drafting youth is not the route that he wants to go down, which incentivizes the team to trade the pick even more. The Raptors also may be headed towards a rebuild of their own this summer, having fired coach Nick Nurse, and if they do that, then Siakam is their best player to trade. Anthony Simons is an explosive young scorer to develop, and Scoot Henderson could be taken with the 3rd pick to be the face of the Raptors rebuild. So honestly, I really like this deal from both sides. Pascal Siakam is an all-star talent who has championship experience winning a ring in 2019, and he's one of the most versatile forwards in the league, scoring 24 points and dishing out 6 assists a night, while playing good solid defense, which the Blazers desperately need more of. I'm not necessarily sure that he makes them a team that contends out west fully, but if Lillard is going to be stubborn about staying in Portland, then this is probably one of the best options that they have to at least try. The next proposal from the article is between the Washington Wizards and the Toronto Raptors, and in it, the Wizards get Fred VanVleet in a sign-and-trade deal, while the Wizards receive Daniel Gafford, Johnny Davis, Isaiah Todd, and the 8th pick in this year's draft. As I just said in the last segment, the Raptors are prime candidates for a rebuild, partly because Fred VanVleet is more than likely on his way out, and after winning a championship together, I don't think it's crazy for Fred to do right by the organization and embrace a sign and trade to the right opportunity, so the team isn't left with nothing in return since he's a free agent. The Wizards are stuck in no man's land after paying Bradley Beal big money, and the organization knows that if moves aren't made soon, then he could force his way out. Point guard is the biggest position of need for the Wizards right now, and Fred VanVleet brings championship pedigree to a franchise lacking in it, so from that point of view, I like it a lot for the Wizards. Being realistic though, I don't think the Wizards would even have to give this much up in a sign and trade to get a guy who is coming off of a down season like VanVleet is. Sign and trades are not meant to be even trades, because quite frankly the alternative is the team in the Raptors situation getting absolutely nothing in return. They have no leverage. A top 10 pick in this year's draft is very valuable, so I'd be hesitant to give that up when they have the money to sign VanVleet outright anyway. VanVleet is definitely the kind of player that the Wizards should be going after. I just think this gives way too much leverage to the Raptors, who realistically don't have much. And finally, the last proposal from the article is between the Dallas Mavericks and the Indiana Pacers, and in it the Mavericks receive Miles Turner in exchange for Davis Bertans, Jaden Hardy, and the 10th pick in this year's draft. The Mavericks season ended in utter disaster this year, despite trading for Kyrie Irving at the trade deadline, and the biggest thing we learned about this current group is that it is filled with horrific defenders and a complete lack of an interior presence. The key to a good defense starts with good rim protection, and that's exactly what Miles Turner brings, as someone who has consistently ranked amongst the league leaders in blocks per game and defended field goal percentage at the rim. Offensively, he's also a good pick and roll and pick and pop option to work alongside Luka Doncic, with the capability of spacing the floor to the three-point line and running in transition, so as someone who finds himself in trade rumors regularly, the Mavericks are actually a realistic suitor for him. Jaden Hardy showed flashes of potential as a scoring talent last season, but he'd get a much better opportunity to develop in Indiana, and of course the top 10 pick is an asset that the Pacers would highly covet too, as a rebuilding squad. So for me, this is actually a pretty reasonable deal for both sides. The price of acquiring Turner may end up being a little steeper, so the Mavs may have to throw in some second round picks to finalize things, but overall, I think both teams get what they need from a trade like this. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these potential trades. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.